Hi, this is Abby from ollieholly.com. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different from my usual crochet content, and that's because we're going to be diving into the world of automata. So a few years ago, I stumbled upon this incredible Instagram account that showcased these intricate wooden toys. And these toys were so cool because they came to life with just a turn of the crank. I was instantly mesmerized and I spent a few hours, I think, watching all of his videos. And ever since then, I've been thinking about making something similar, but just with a crochet twist. But first, let's get into what an automaton is. According to Wikipedia, it's a relatively self-operating machine designed to follow a sequence of actions. So think cuckoo clocks or one of those old-timey wind-up toys. Since this was my first time trying to make automata toys, I wanted to keep the motions as simple as possible. I decided to crochet some firecrackers for Lunar New Year, and I figured I could easily achieve some type of jerky movement that would mimic the real movements of actual firecrackers. Before I get into the details of my automaton build, I just want to shout out this channel called Stoccafisso Designs. His channel primarily focuses on wooden automata toys, and I watched a bunch of his videos to gain inspiration for my build. His designs are super quirky and fun, so if you're interested in watching his videos, I'll link his channel down below. A few disclaimers before we continue on to the build. The content presented in this video is for entertainment purposes only. I'm clearly not a professional, and I do not claim to be an expert in woodworking or any related field. While I do go into detail on how I made my automaton toy, this video is not intended to serve as a tutorial or instructional guide. Thank you for your understanding and for watching responsibly. Now let's get started on my automata toy. To start, I'm taking my masking tape and I'm taping two 4-inch by 4-inch coasters together. I'm marking the middle of the coasters by drawing lines that connect the opposite corners of the coasters diagonally. I'm using a center punch tool with a mallet to mark the center so that when I drill, the drill doesn't move around the surface. Then I'm drilling a hole the size of the dowel, and these two pieces are going to be used for the sides. Next, I'm working on my top piece, and I'm drilling two holes in my 5-inch by 5-inch coaster. One in the center and one about 3/4 inch behind. And I'm using a drill bit that's slightly smaller than the screw I plan to use. Then I'm lining the firecrackers up to a square dowel, and I'm marking the dowel 1/2 inch longer than the firecrackers. I cut the dowel with my saw and sanded the cut edge so that it was smooth and flat. To make the hook to hang the firecrackers with, I'm going to start by drilling a hole a little bigger than the thickness of my stainless steel wire, about 1/4 inch from the top of the dowel. Then I'm going to thread 1 inch of the wire through, bend it down, then bend it upwards halfway. I'm then wrapping the other end of the wire tightly around the dowel a couple times, right below the hook. To hide the wire end, I'm going to trim it down to size and insert the wire into the hole in the back of the dowel. I'm also going to drill a small hole below the fortune sign so that I can secure the sign down later on with a piece of wire. This way, when the firecrackers are moving, the sign isn't getting whipped around. So this next part, I'm not sure is completely necessary, but I drilled a small hole at the bottom of the square dowel and I applied some glue to the bottom of the dowel. I then lined up the hole from the dowel to the back hole on the top piece, and I screwed the two pieces together. Screwing these two pieces together was probably one of the more difficult parts of this toy build. And I'm kind of wondering if wood glue on its own would have maybe been enough. But either way, I'm really happy with how this turned out. To help guide the wire, I decided to glue a wooden bead over the front hole of the top piece. Next, I'm going to be working on the mechanism to make the firecrackers move. I'm starting by making a template to find the center of my wooden circles. I'm taping two wooden circles together with masking tape because I want the holes to match up better for these two pieces. Then, using the template I just made, I'm going to mark the center and drill a hole the size of the dowel through both circles. I'm also going to drill an extra hole to the side. For these pieces, the wooden circles I used weren't the best quality, so I had to go slow when drilling. I actually lost a few circles during the drilling process because I was going a little too fast. One of the main things I wanted to achieve with my automata toy was for it to make noise similar to the sound of firecrackers going off. After some trial and error with different materials, I realized that plastic gift cards were the perfect thing to use to achieve that sound. It's also much easier to cut than wood, and we just had a bunch of them laying around. I traced the template over the gift card, then I drew some spikes all the way around. I didn't draw the spikes on perfectly because I figured it would add to the randomness of the sound. I decided to make 2 of these so that the noise would be louder and a little bit more unpredictable. And for the hole in the center, I drilled it to be just big enough for the rounded dowel. Next, I cut my dowels down to size for the mechanism and sanded the ends so that it would be smooth. I cut a strand of the thin stainless steel wire that I have to be just slightly longer than the square dowel on my stand. And I'm using a slightly thicker round dowel, and I'm wrapping one end of the thin wire around the dowel a couple times. I decided to do a trial assembly before I glued everything together just to make sure that everything fits properly. Once I was sure everything fit properly, I used some wood glue to glue the dowels to the circles. For the sound maker part of this automata toy, I decided to cut slits to the side pieces so that I could fit a piece of cardstock through on both sides. I drilled holes in 2 more wooden circles, and the one with 1 hole is going to be a stopper so that the dowel doesn't fall out, and the one with 2 holes is going to be used for the crank. Next, I assembled everything and taped them together with some masking tape. To assemble everything together, I decided to just use wood glue without any dowels, screws, or nails. I did a bit of a stress test on a prototype and the wood glue held on pretty well, so I figured this was okay. Next, I'm just gluing the stopper and the crank to the dowel ends that are sticking out on the outside of the box. For the noisemaker, I'm just inserting pieces of cardstock paper into the pre-cut slits. The wire was going a little bit too wild when being cranked, so I decided to glue a bead to the square dowel to help control the movement of the wire. I secured the fortune sign down with some thin wire, and finally I'm attaching the wire from the moving mechanism to the string of the firecrackers.